unifying and establishing Rastafari families in the Bahamas and abroad, and to ensure that black people are allotted full participation in political, social, cultural, and economic dimensions of world affairs. Therefore, it is with esteemed pleasure that we wish the Commonwealth of the Bahamas a happy and blessed 36th anniversary of independence. And in doing so, we lament, pray, and do libations for the souls of those African, Arawak, Lucayan, Seminoles, and Carib martyrs who were sacrificed on this long road to nationhood. We must never forget them, for it is on their shoulders and backs that the foundation of this nation was laid. African presence has been here in the Western Hemisphere centuries before Christopher Columbus and the Mayflower. Moorish King Mansa Musa, who was an African descent, sent 20 ships to the Western Hemisphere and also coexisted with the indigenous Arawaks and Lucayan Indians. The Black Seminoles of Florida and Red Bay Andres is just but one example of those coexistence of African in the Bahamas. In the year 1942, a Moorish ship captain by the name Alfonso Nina navigated and led Spanish government-sponsored expedition that Cristobal Colon, who is better known as Christopher Columbus, was supposedly to be in charge. If we as Bahamians studied our history in depth, we would have realized a long time ago that Christopher Columbus and his sponsors, the Spanish government, is largely responsible for the kidnapping, exploitation, enslavement, and eventual genocide of both the African and Arawak that dwells in the islands. In knowing these facts, we would have come to the realization that there is so much history behind the independence of the Bahamas, and that the fight for independence began a long time ago, and that we as a nation have not yet to attain all of the qualities of an independent nation. As time passed, things in the Bahamas progressed, and black people began to find different ways to fight for their equality and rights as Bahamian citizens. However, the fight continued, and the many African descendants, now called Bahamians, began assuming their rightful place in the society. If not for the presence of black awareness and pride and knowledge of heritage, there would not have been majority rule. For many of the persons responsible for this act were strongly grounded in their roots and were active members in various Afrocentric organizations. Some of the predecessors to the black majority rule in the Bahamas were A.F. Adderley, Uriah McPhee, and Leon W. Young. These men were all members of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, Bahamas and Miami, Florida branch. These names are still today echoed in the Bahamian educational system. Sidney Poitier, who is also a son of the soil, is known for his outside influences, as he did not reside here in the Bahamas. There were more outside influences, such as the Africans mentioned by the Honorable Hartley Sanders in his book, The Other Bahamas, and the Honorable Sir Randolph Fox, The Faith That Moves Mountains. Did you know that the global movement against colonialism is deeply rooted in the ideals, thoughts, and opinion of the Honorable Robert Joseph Love, a Pan-African and African nationalist who was born here in the Bahamas in 1939? I personally am a 21-year-old Bahamian youth of African descent who has spent 12 years in the Bahamian schools and 2 years pursuing a tertiary education here in the Bahamas. But it was not until some weeks ago that I had attained this knowledge. On the other hand, from the time of my elementary schooling, about 4 years into my education, I was able to recite many facts and myths about a man called Christopher Columbus. I say this to say that we here in the Bahamas are an independent nation, free from the colonial bonds of Britain. But we need to proceed into becoming an independent people and individuals. spiritually, mentally, and physically, with the freedom to express ourselves, even in ways we see fit to commemorate our heritage. From the very beginning, the Rastafari faith has prided itself on the fact that most of its beliefs and practices are derived straight out of Africa. After all, you must know where you come from in order to know where you are going. So, this is why we often query as why we have been experiencing so many unjust acts over the years. The Rastafari community has coexisted in the Bahamas public amongst a number of different beliefs and religions for over 40 years. We as a people have experienced the colonial era of Jim Crow and racial discrimination from the 1960s. Our pioneers witnessed the change of government and commencement of the black majority rule, followed by independence. But Jim Crow and oppression took on a black face. In recent years, here in the Bahamas, there still has been many discrimination matters of concern afforded by government agents in the law enforcement sector against the Rastafari community. In addition to the many tragic incidents that our people have experienced over the years, there is one in particular that stands out. This is the cutting of the dreadlocks. Cutting the dreadlocks off of the head of a follower of the Rastafari faith is like raping a woman or a child. These statements made by the late Honorable Celine Pinlin during a meeting with Rastafari delegates is so true. Still, when a person of Rastafari faith is sentenced to time in Her Majesty prison, it has become the norm that their dreadlocks and facial hair be shaven immediately, no matter how short the sentence. This cruel and barbaric act must be stopped, for we grow our locks as a consecration of a vow that we made with God. Our locks also serves as an indication of historical appearances. So when our hair is shaved by the government enforcement agents, they have toppled and destroyed our rights, depriving us of Article 23 in the independent Constitution, which states that we should have freedom of expression. Yet, we do commend many of those positive Afrocentric persons who have accepted us and our traditions, especially members of the Pan-African movement, who often rallied with us in the attempts to preserve our heritage, to put on an end to oppression. We must never use power that is given to us to oppress those who we were once oppressed with. The Rastafari body, along with the Pan-African Bahamas branch, has so many to offer to the Bahamian society. For instance, the Bahamas Pan-African Congress, with President Asofeo Rasti Oanhana, attorney at law, presents an Afrocentric Pan-African website, www.bpanc.ning.org and www.lovevibration.ning.com, while the Rastafari Development Union, with its worthy patron and chairman, Honorable Ras James Roll, Justice of Peace, presents the community with its first cyber cafe. Our cultural, social, and civil contributions to the nation is far-reaching, a fulfilling sense of purpose in realms of the music industry, indigenous black beauty, locks care, law, culinary, journalism, construction, arts and crafts, teacher's profession, and many more. So, therefore, we ask our fellow brothers and sisters to join us as we trample indifference and injustice and treat everyone equal. For this is the best way for us to establish the sovereignty bestowed upon us by our great ancestors. For it was the same sovereignty that manifested itself into an independent Bahamas. Can you even imagine the height of success that we can reach as a nation if we put these into practice? On this year, the 36th anniversary of independent Bahamas, We heed to you, the Bahamian people, to let us all unite in love and equality, to extend our independence as a people and individuals, superseding the fathers of this nation, rather than allowing their struggle to be gone in vain. Thank you.